Hello everyone and welcome to our video. As you saw from the title below, today we're going to be discussing the conveyancing process. In this video we will take you through the conveyancing process in detail, from making an offer to completion date. Watch until the end of the video where we will provide you with some tips to help you avoid mistakes and ensure that your property purchase goes smoothly. So sit back, relax and let's jump straight into learning everything you need to know about buying a house or flat in the UK.
So what is conveyancing? Conveyancing is the legal process of transferring ownership of a property from seller to the buyer. This process typically handled by a solicitor or licensed conveyancer who will act on the behalf of the buyer to ensure all the legal requirements are met.
When the conveyancing process starts, the conveyancing process begins when you have made an offer on a property that has been accepted by the seller. After that, the estate agent will send you a memorandum of sale and you will need to hire a solicitor or licensed conveyancer to handle the legal aspects of the transaction. Be careful when choosing a conveyancer. This is an important step. Watch until the end of the video for some useful tips on the topic.
After choosing the solicitor, you will need to instruct them on starting the process. But don't rush to do that, as this involves your initial payment to them. First, contact your broker and start to work on obtaining mortgage for this particular property. The last thing you want is to pay the solicitors and then find out that there is no lenders willing to lend you the money for the property for whatever reason that might be.
At this stage is a good time to conduct your survey. It's important to have a survey carried out on the property. This will identify issues with the property that might need to be addressed before you buy it. There are different types of surveys available, including a home buyer's report, a building survey and a condition report. Also, if any issue come up on the report, that can change your mind on whether continuing or no with the buying process. Any of those issues can be used as a reason for the property price negotiation. Another option will be negotiation with the seller on rectifying this issue.
After you receive your mortgage offer from a lender, you can go and then formally instruct your solicitor to act from your behalf in this transaction. At this stage, you will have to pay your first installment towards the conveyancing costs. That usually costs 200 to 300. Again, wait until the end of the video where we will share some insights and talk about our financial conveyancing bill.
What is the conveyancing process? The first step in the conveyancing process is for your solicitor to conduct a series of searches to ensure that the property is free from legal issues or complications. These searches may include a local property search, which will provide information on any planning permissions or building regulations affecting the property, as well as any proposed development plans in the area. Your solicitor will also conduct an environmental search to identify any potential environmental hazards such as contamination from the previous industrial use. The result from these searches will typically come back in a period of 2 to 3 weeks. Your solicitor will revise them and let you know if there is any issues you need to be aware of.
Meanwhile, the seller solicitor will send over to your solicitor the draft of the contract. Once the searches has been completed, your solicitor will raise up numerous inquiries about the properties and send them over the seller solicitor. This will take a big part of the time during conveyancing because the seller solicitor will need information from management agency, the council, and the sellers themselves.
For example, are there any outstanding service charges or ground rent on the property? These questions are not typically answered in once, and there are numerous times of them going forward and back between the solicitors. This process of responding to inquiries can take a couple of months or more, and this is the point where you start wondering what is going on, why there is no process, and usually at this point you start chasing your solicitors every week for an update.
After all the inquiries has been satisfied, your solicitor will report all the findings and send it over to you for your revision. Here is the point where you need to ask questions. Anything that is not clear or raises flags, once you have all your questions answered and you are happy to proceed with the purchase, your solicitor will send the signed contracts to the seller solicitor, and that is called exchange of contracts. This is legally binding agreement that set out of the terms of the sale.
At this stage, you need to pay the deposit, usually around 10% of the purchase price, and the final solicitor's bills. Your solicitor will also arrange a date for completion with the seller's solicitor. If there are no issues, the two events usually take place a week apart.
Finally, on completion day, your solicitor will arrange for the transfer of funds from your lender and then transfer of ownership to take place. This is when you will pay the remaining balance of the purchase price and take possession of the property. Usually, this is the day when you receive the key of your new home.
Yay! Congratulations! Tip number 1. For example, when you conduct your survey while you're obtaining your mortgage, there can be an issue coming up, for example, with dampness. So if there is a dampness in some of the walls or in some of the rooms of the property, you can ask the seller to either rectify the issue by fixing it himself, or you can calculate the cost and get a quote for the work that need to be carried out fixing this damp issue, and then ask to cut it off the price that you're paying on the property.
Or for example, if the property needs to change windows, and then that's gonna cost you a lot in the future for the service charge.
For example, most of the estate agents will recommend you to go with a big firm, and these big firms normally just employ a few licensed solicitors, and the rest of the employees are clerks. So one solicitor normally is dealing with 100 or 200 of property transactions at the same time, and the clerks are doing the labor job for them. So that's really inconvenient for you to go with this type of firm, because the solicitor is very busy and he normally cannot get your phone calls. As well, you're gonna, when you try to call for an update, they're gonna pass you through the secretary or different assistants, and they were not gonna be able to answer your questions.
And we found the secretary or assistant, they probably are part-time, so they just work 2-3 days a week, and if any bank holiday or any holiday appear, then it's going to delay you another like a week. That is easily passed by, so we don't recommend go with this big company.
So even though our purchase went through one of those big companies, we don't have such a negative experience because we were able quite often to reach our main guy, the solicitor, and he was quite responsive. So we're not so negatively approaching the big companies, but think about it.
The conveyancing process can be really slow with them.
Another option is to look for a small firm which gonna have more private approach towards their clients. What we would say anyway before choosing a solicitor, try to speak straight away with the licensed solicitor and keep in touch with him. Make sure you have his personal number, his personal email, and just communicate with him that you would like to be able to approach him throughout the process with any questions and see how they respond, and just go for the solicitors that make you the best impression they can.
Tip number 3: be aware of the timelines. Make sure you're aware of the timeline for the conveyancing process, including any deadlines for the completion searches, arranging a survey and exchange contracts. This will help you to stay on the top of the process and ensure that everything is completed on time.
Be prepared for unexpected costs. It's important to be prepared for unexpected costs that may arise during the conveyancing process, such as additional searches or surveys. Your solicitor or licensed conveyancer should be able to provide you with the estimate of these costs upfront so you can budget accordingly. However, not always they can predict all the extra costs, because some of them are depending on the other side, on the inquiries that gonna arise, their answers, and a lot of them, the costs are involved with the managing agency that is managing the property that you are about to buy.
And we will show you how our initial quotation is £1,500, and went up to 3,600. By the end of the video, we'll show you the exactly comparison of these two costs. Be aware of the chain property. A property chain is a sequence of the property transactions where each purchase is dependent on the success of the previous sale. In other words, a chain is formed when a buyer is also a seller, and the transaction can only proceed if their own sales is completed successful. So if you kind of rush to move in the property, we normally will advise you to find another one, which is no chain. We have our when we're doing our first want to buy our first property, that's initially wasn't a chain, but it's not on the paper black and white. The sellers just told us that he will move out as long as we purchase, but later on he changed his mind that he decided to stay in. So
by the time he wanted to stay, by the time he buy his next property, so
Yeah.
he was in a chain.
So this property become a chain property, and it took us for 8 months, and we still couldn't process it because the seller is still living inside, and then he depends on the other side of his purchase, and our mortgage was remained for 6 months expired, and we even pay the broker twice to extend it. But still, it's already take us money, take us time. So after 8 months, we decide to leave it and then find the next property. And another tip is, if you no matter your buying process is successful or or failed, you still need to pay a solicitor. Although they probably say like no deal no fee, but they're still gonna charge you on the time they work, even though there's failed transaction or whatever reason. So need to be aware of that. Here is our action overview of our conveyancing. So what they have all this part, like your information, what you're buying, error search, protect your interest finance, prepare for exchange. So this is the quotation fee. Initially, the solicitor give to us, and you can see they give us quote for 1,500, and then eventually we pay for 3,600, and then there are so many unnecessary, unexpected costs. For example, this one 156, and this 156, and this 156. This is all required from the management agency, and it's not what we expected. That's why it's not in this initial quote.
So for instance, for the search pack, they quote us about £275, and our final bill, they actually charge us here local and other searches £362. So we would say always budget for extra costs with conveyancing, because we end up paying over double of what we expected to pay from the beginning. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you find value in the content, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for watching.
See you next time.
Bye.